Hello again. All right, guys, so it's day 7, and day 7, we're still working on 7.1, which is the beginning of our new chapter, and we are going to be adding and subtracting polynomials. So yesterday you learned that a polynomial was a sum of multiple monomials, which is just something you've been dealing with for many years. You didn't know what its name was. And today we're going to add and subtract those pieces together. Now, your assignment is this handout, as well as at the end of this section, you should have all of your 7.1 vocabulary words defined and an example given for each one. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing your work for this week. All right, at this point, if you don't have your notes or your textbook out, you probably should go grab those. So pause this video, go grab both of those things, and then come right back. All right, so your notes are little images with steps and examples on how to add and subtract polynomials. So when we're adding and subtracting polynomials, we're really just looking for the like terms, combining them together, and then we have a solution that's one polynomial, and we want to make sure it's in standard form. All right, so give me 1 second if you would. All right, so let's say I had the two polynomials 15y squared plus 12y is the first polynomial, and I want to add it to 23y squared minus 9y. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I know what my like terms are. So when I'm adding and subtracting these polynomials, the like terms would be the terms with the exponent being the same. So in this case, y squared and y squared are like terms, and then y and y are like terms. Do not confuse the fact that they're all the same letter as like terms. That's not the case. They have to have the same variable and the same exact exponent. All right, so using that information, let's start grouping things together and adding them. So in your notes, it shows taking those like terms, grouping them together, and then getting an answer. So my first like term would be 15y squared, and my second would be 23. Please keep in mind that we're adding them together, meaning we're going to set it up as addition. But if they're opposite signs, we just need to use our integer rules. So my first set of like terms are 15y squared plus, from right here, plus 23y squared. All right, then my second set, I have to look at what's in front of it still. So in this case, I have a positive 12y, and then I have plus a negative 9y. I could also just write minus 9y, but to keep this consistent, we're going to write this each time as well. All right, now we're just going to add those coefficients together or subtract them depending on the problem that I'm given. So my y squared stays there, and then I'm going to do 15 plus 23, which would produce 38. So I have 38y squared, and then I still have y here, and then I have 12 plus a negative 9. So remember, plus a negative means you actually subtract them, and it's positive. So that positive is reflected here. When I added those two polynomials together, my answer was 38y squared plus 3y, not squared, plus 3y. All right, pretty simple, right? All right, so now try another example. I'm sorry, my board is super noisy right now. All right. All right, so I have the polynomial 2x cubed plus 7x squared minus 4x being added to the polynomial 3x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x. So again, find your like terms, set them up together, and then add them together. All right, so I have 2x cubed and then I have 3x cubed. I know that they're like terms because they both have x cubed. So again, 2x cubed plus 3x cubed is my first set of like terms. Then I have plus 7x squared minus, negative 2x squared. So I have 7x squared plus a negative 2x squared. All right, and then the last thing that I have are my x's, which are negative 4x plus a negative 5x. All right, so far so good. Now let's actually add or subtract those together depending on if I have positives and negatives. So I have 2 plus 3, therefore I have 5x cubed. Then I have 7x squared plus negative 2x squared, so I actually have 7 minus 2, which is a positive 5, so it will be plus 5x squared. And then right here I have negative 4x plus a negative 5, so I actually have negative 4 minus 5, which is negative 9, so I have a minus 9x. And at this point I've used all of the information, so when I'm adding those two polynomials together, the sum is 5x cubed plus 5x squared minus 9x. All right, so at this point, this is pretty much what you're going to do for every single addition problem. It's okay if you have them vertically, which you might see on your handout, but now let's talk about our subtracting problems. All right. So now I'm giving you a subtraction example, and in your notes it starts talking about to subtract or to add an opposite. So what that means is when I am subtracting polynomials, I'm going to find the opposite of the polynomial after the subtraction sign and actually add its opposite, which a good way to remember that is we are going to set up a keep, change, flip problem, which means we are going to keep the first polynomial completely the same. We're going to change this subtraction to addition, and then we are going to make the second polynomial its opposite by flipping each of the signs. All right, so not too bad. So the opposite simply means you're going to make everything the opposite sign. All right, so let's give it a shot. I'm going to keep everything in my first polynomial completely the same. I'm going to change my subtraction to addition. And then I'm going to flip the sign of each piece of the second polynomial. So notice this was a positive, now it's a negative. Notice this subtraction, if I cover it up, is showing that I have a negative 5. Well, I'm going to make that a positive, which now means I have a positive 5. All right, so at this point, everything above, I'm not really looking at. I'm now just looking at a new addition problem, which we just did, so you should be okay. So here are the n's that are going to be added together. So I have 6n plus a negative 4n, which produces a positive 2n. And then I have negative 1 plus 5, which produces a positive 4. So I have 2n plus 4. Not too bad, right? All right, so let me give you one more. This one, I'll make sure you have polynomials with 3 terms, and we're still going to do the same trick. I know it doesn't say it in your notes, but it's something for those of you watching that might become more helpful to you. All right, so let's try this out. All right, so the polynomials that I'm subtracting are positive 6x. One of these times I'll get it. Positive 6k squared minus k minus 4 subtracted by 6k squared minus 4k minus 13. All right, so I want to actually add the opposite of the second polynomial, which means I'm going to keep, change, and flip. So let's keep our first polynomial completely the same. Change my subtraction to addition and flip the sign of every piece in my second polynomial. So this becomes negative 6k squared. This becomes positive 4k, and this becomes positive 13. All right, not too bad, right? Now group each like term and add them together or subtract them depending upon if I have positives and negatives again. All right, so here are my like terms for k squared. So I have 6k squared plus a negative 6k squared, which we all know is 0, and we don't really have to write 0. All right, now let's move on. I have negative k plus 4k. This is actually a negative 1, so I have 3k to start. And then finally, I have negative 4 plus 13, which produces a positive 9. Excuse my multiple colors down there. All right, so the difference between these two polynomials is 3k plus 9. All right, so not too bad. In your notes, it might say it's slightly different. No big deal. You follow whatever makes more sense to you. Now, going back to this assignment, as I'm looking at it, I can see that most of this, if not all of it, is subtraction. No problem, because when you take those subtraction problems, you're actually turning them into addition. So you're still practicing the addition rules. All right, this is self-checking. So if you're not finding those answers on the right side, that means something's not going right. All right, so this concludes our day 9 notes and your day 9 assignment. If you have any questions whenever you're working, if you're stuck, feel free to give me a message. You know how to message me at this point. And and again, don't forget that vocab. All right, so I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.